knitters, welcome to PJ Knits. My name is Penny. I live in Central Illinois and I'm a knitter, a blogger, a YouTube podcaster, and I'm active on Instagram. Welcome to my corner of the knitting world, and thank you for coming and joining and spending some time with me. Grab your knitting and a cuppa, and we're going to talk about knitting in general. My knitting, your knitting, the world's knitting. So anyway, today is Monday, February 17th, and in Central Illinois, it is cold. We're in a cold snap for this week. Perfect time for sweaters, that's for sure. Bring out all the winter sweaters and wear those. And we've had a little snow the last week. I've shoveled a couple of times, and there's still a little bit of snow on the grass, but the roads are pretty clear. So we can be thankful for that. And it's just, it is what it is. And we feel so bad for those who, our friends down in Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia this past weekend that had so much rain and on top of everything else. So I hope that all of you are doing well if you're down that way, and I hope you're doing okay. So anyway, got some things to talk to you about. First of all, we're going to talk about Makers Meetup. If you don't know about Makers Meetup, it is a retreat that Kendra and I are hosting the last weekend in July, and you can get all of the details back in the last episode where we Zoomed together. And also on the PJ Knits Ravelry Group, there is an open thread that has the link to the hotel, and we will keep you updated there on things that are going on with the meetup. Right now, we have over 25 people that have said that they are coming. Let me know. And so if you are planning on coming, if you could just reach out to Kendra or I on one of the many platforms and let us know, we'll add your name to the list, because we want to just kind of get an idea for how many people we're going to have. It's the last weekend in July, and if the first 6 weeks are any indication of how much time flies, July is going to be here before we know it. So, and we will be enjoying so much fun, but we're going to have some surprises. And if you're able to come, we'd love to have you and spend the weekend with us and meet some new friends and build a new community. So hopefully that information is out there. Again, next couple of days in the drop-down box below in the description box, I will try and link a lot of the things that I talk about on the podcast, along with where you can get a hold of me as well. So that information will be out there. So let's get started with a couple of things. First of all, I have some finished objects that I want to share with you. My first one is Get Out of the Pool. This is a design by Beth McDonald Stone. It is not out yet, but I anticipate in the next couple of weeks that it will be out, because it's a really good summer sweater. And here is what the original looks like. And I was doing a test knit for Beth, and as luck would have it, she extended it a little while so I could get mine finished. I started it back in November, and I finished it. I actually finished knitting it quite some time ago, but what I didn't know about it at the time is a couple of things. The Get Out of the Pool teal is Get Out of the Pool tee is meant to be a sewn up sweater, and for those of you who know me. It's not that I can't sew up. I just choose not to, because I like to get motor on and wear it and get on to the next knit. But this one was a sewing up, and sewing up in garter as well. So that just took me a little bit of the mindset to get to the point that I wanted to actually sew it up and finish it up. But once I got to sewing it up on my table up here in the bright light of the day, it wasn't so bad. It went fairly quickly. So as I can say, I started it back in November and finally finished it on the 5th of February, but the knitting was done relatively short. It was just trying to get it together. So I will shift here and show you what mine looks like on my mannequin. This, I knit this according to her pattern specs. I didn't, as far as the length is concerned and everything else, it is according to her specs. I did, mine is the size 40 is the size 2, which is a finished measurement of size 46. And just for, thoughts, I have a 39-inch bust, so I did not make any modifications. I just made it as is to her specs. The yarn that I used was from my local yarn shop, the Fiber Universe. It is from an Araucania yarn. It's called Alsa, which is Spanish for sea plants. And I did this in the color was waves. And so please go out and check when the pattern goes live, check all the other different yarns that people used in this. And it is a little bit cropped. I'm okay with that because I think it looks great over a dress, which is my intention to wear it. And I think even for me, that for my what I call my pelican arms, I think this will be perfectly fine to wear over a sleeveless dress, or even a long sleeve shirt, or even with a collar on it too. So I love this one, and it's just really super fun to knit. And again, this is a great sweater for you all to maybe knit for your summer wearing. So I like to do the PJ Knit sweater project, which is to have these things done in advance of the season. So I'm ready for summer. I'm ready for our meetup when it comes time to have that. So that was a fun one. This yarn that I used is 65% organic cotton, 23% bamboo viscose, and 12% sea cell. The yardage was 306 yards per skein, and I used 299 yards. 100 grams is what the balls were, and I used just shy of 300 grams when I was done with it. So I super like this. It was interesting to do, and it was also made me use my sewing up techniques, which I need to do, and on garter as well. So a garter and rib. So I was pretty pleased with that particular one for sure. So that is my first finished object, and the thing that's fun about it is that this is out of my WIP or 2024 journal. So this is a WIP that I get to pull off of my list. My next one is another WIP that I started back in December at the end of the year when we started getting some weather, and I thought perhaps it was time to do a coordinated effort for a hat, mittens, and gloves. Hat, mittens, glove, hat, mittens or gloves, and maybe a collar scarf. I haven't gotten all the way to everything yet as far as that's concerned, but my next one was the Twistmas. This was out of PYS, some leftover yarns, some drops that I had from my Turtle Dove 2 that I knit. And I knit Twistmas, which is an Espace Tricot pattern, free pattern. And so this one, again, took me a little bit longer not because it was anything hard to knit on, but one of those things that I didn't really, I was knitting on this and knitting on that, knitting on other things. And so it was one of those things that I didn't want to totally do. Now, or totally knit on all at once, let's put it that way. And if you recall, I showed some time ago about a pom-pom that I purchased from my local yarn shop as well. And so, as Debbie had said, then I had to buy the pom-pom, right? And then I'm like, well, now I'm going to go home to my PYS and see if I can actually find anything that would go with it, so I didn't have to buy anything. And as luck would have it, I had some leftover Drops Air. And so I decided to knit a hat from that. And it didn't take much. It took 37 grams. And the nice thing is, in my bin upstairs, I now have sufficient quantity to do. I'm going to do mittens next, and then some sort of cowl or scarf to go with it. So I will have a nice ensemble. If not for this year, definitely for next year. But here is Twistmas. Isn't that cute? I love it. And it was twisted stitch all the way up. So it kept my attention to it for sure. And let's just pop your baby off of here. And I will. Whoops. Okay. I love the pom-pom. Super, super fun, for sure. And will keep me warm. And, you know, you always have to play around with the bangs when you've got them and all of that. So this is super, super cool. I'm super excited about it, for sure. And I'm excited to go out and figure out. I have an idea of the mittens that I'm going to use for sure, and then excuse me. Then I will deal with whatever's left, and for a cowl or maybe a little shawlette too. I could do that, but anyway. So that is Twistmas off the needles and finished. And as I said, I used 37 grams for that, and it was done on a size 6 and 7 needle, so fairly easy to do for sure. So that was super, super fun. And then last but not least is also, and all 3 of these finished objects are out of my WIP projects or out of my 2024 journal. And the last one that I have is Flax. Now, I started this again. This was one of those projects that part of the yarn was purchased from my local yarn shop, which is the Surrey Stratus, and the other part was PYS. It is a Sunday Knits yarn, Nirvana. And I wanted to do something, originally I had made a swatch of these two together. I may have done the swatch separately in just the Nirvana for something else, for a test knit that I was doing for Beth. And it just didn't come together. And then I've added the Surrey to it and did another swatch, and you just couldn't see the stitches. So I abandoned that idea, but I knew that I wanted to use this yarn, use something from PYS. And so I had tried out the Surrey to start with, and I decided to do just a comfy, cozy Flax, which was the first time I have knit it. And what I like to do is use paper patterns. I have the ability to use electronic. I have my aversion to those. Let's just put it that way. It's one of those things, again, kind of like that belligerent knitter. I like what I like, and that's what I'm sticking with. So they have a wonderful app, and Flax is in it, but I still like my paper pattern. So I printed off from the website my paper pattern, and then I used the app to go in and circle what I needed to do. So it is Flax Sweater by Tin Can Knits. And as I said, I used the base yarn is Sunday Knits Nirvana, which is a 92% merino and 8% premium cashmere. And it comes in 50-gram balls, 125 meters. And the color in it is lilac. And I use 394 grams, and I'm starting to put everything in grams in my journals now these days. It's just easier when you're weighing leftover yarn to equate all of that too. And as Kendra and I were talking this morning, I still haven't equated, the grams to yards, because I used to convert it. Like, this is the grams left, this is the yardage. I use this much yardage, but I really just started putting in my journal grams. And then the other one is Plymouth Yarn Surrey Stratus. It is 68% Surrey alpaca and 32% nylon. And I really do like this to put with an add-on yarn for sure. The colorway is 20, and it's in lavender. And I used 120 grams of it. I really am drawn to this particular yarn right now. As far as any kinds of mods, and all of my projects, everything that I talk about here, I give pretty detailed notes in my Ravelry project page, which is pjknits1 there. And I try to tell you the size and the needle. I try to put it on my body so you can see what it looks like on my body shape. But any mods that I make to it, I put in there as well. My size was a size ML, which is a 40. I cast on with a size 6 needles for the rib, and then I switched to a size 8 for the body. I worked the whole garment till about 22 inches is in length, because I kind of like 24 for a finish now. And which was 11 inches under the underarm. So you can kind of this one has about 11 inches in. There's 11 inches after the underarm, so that makes it, 11-ish down here as well. And so I did a size 8 needle. I didn't switch anything out, didn't make any really mods on it, on the body. And after the first row of the rib, I switched to a size 6 needle and did a 2-inch needle, and then I bound off on a size 8 needles at the rib to give me the stretch that I wanted. As far as the sleeves are concerned, I knew that I wanted a long sleeve. I used a size 8 needle, and I picked up an extra 16 stitches underneath my arm, as I always do. Number 1, to close the gap. Number 2, to make sure that I have plenty of room. And as you can see, after blocking this, I do. And on this particular one, I worked till about 8.5 inches, and then I started, I used that World Knits app, and I did my decreases so that I could get to where I knew that I wanted to be for a wrist, as far as that's concerned. Because I have small wrists. That's the small part of the body on me. And so I made those mods, and I use that almost all the time through here to right about here, because this is where the fatty part of my arm starts. And then I do the decreases to get here. And so there was a certain amount of decreases here, and then more rapid here, I think, or maybe the other way around. Rapid and then further apart, so that I could get to where I wanted on that. But I am totally loving this. I love the feel of it. That's what I like a lot, because it's next to bare skin. It's comfy, cozy. It's going to be a perfect sweater for out and about today or tomorrow when I go to the yarn shop. And so I'm just going to stand up one more time so you can see the sleeve treatment that I have going down here, and where that it comes on length. There will be pictures, later, and you can see that I have plenty of room here as far as that's concerned. I'm totally loving it. The neck is good. I like that it's where it's at. It's covering the bra straps, and just a really fun knit. And it took me longer, but only reason it took me longer is because I was only really knitting on it at the shop, because part of the yarn was there, and I like to do that there. So anyway, that is my finished objects for this podcast. Okay, let's all take a sip. It's definitely a coffee week. Okay. So just things I wanted to tell you about. So I'm going to talk, I guess, about whips right now. That's my next thing. If you watched a couple episodes ago, you'll know that I cast on, thanks to our friend Kim, I cast on another Sophie scarf was my intention out of my Plymouth cantata. And as I started knitting other things and thinking about where I wanted to be with my knitting for winter scarves and that, I realized that it was time to cut bait on that particular project, because it felt good in a whim, right? It felt good to do it. And I had high hopes, but I'm just like, I have too much of that yarn left to not make some sort of maybe another sweater out of it. And I just wasn't feeling it. So that my Sophie scarf has been cut bait, and I have plenty of other whips to share with you. First up, I want to share the Cooma Cowl. This is one that I cast on after I did some knitting brainstorming of couple of gift yarns that I received for my birthday and Christmas. Birthdays, I guess, sometime in the last couple of years, and finally decided what to do with these. And so I decided to cast on a Cooma Cowl. And both of the yarns that are going into this are gift yarns. They are both Emma's yarns. And what I had was, I have the method here is I received this. This is her fingering weight yarn. And then this is her mohair. And I have had one skein of this. And I was thinking about going out and buying some more of this to do maybe a sweater with. because I have enough of this for a sweater. But I decided what I wanted to do is to put these together, and instead of doing on the Cooma Cowl, see here, right? She does it in all different colors. And I knew I didn't want to do that, but I thought about doing these together. And so I decided to do a Kuma just in a solid color. And so I'm having some fun with this. This is going to be a fun one. So I'll show you this. This is, and here's the, let's go this way. There we go. So you can see where the mohair goes all along, and then you pick it back up and you do it together. And this is kind of like a really fun knit. So the method to my madness is because I'm going to do the Kuma Cowl and use up my my gift yarn here, but I have more of this, and when I get done, this is going to be a muscle burl for me. I'm going to take the other skein I've got and part of this, and well, the other skein will make more than a muscle burl, but I'm going to make a muscle burl totally out of it for me, and then I'm going to either make some mittens or some gloves, and I might have enough left to make a pair of socks because I think I have enough. Once I get those things done, once I get your mittens done and the muscle burl, if I have enough, I'm going to make some socks. So I will have an ensemble out of this, my gift yarn, and I think that this is just what I've been waiting for and searching for, is something that I can make an ensemble out of to go with all my many black coats or different color coats. So that is whip, first whip I want to show you. And then my second whip is really in the form of our cowl that we're doing. And this is the Unite cowl, where we cast on during New Year's Day, a group of us on Zoom. Some are doing the Vertices Unite, as I am. Some are doing the Textures Unite, or have finished it, and others are just going rogue. And so the plan is to have everybody finish their Unite shawls up and bring them to the meetup so we can get a picture on it. So I am doing Vertices Unite, as I have talked about before. And this has been potato chippy for me. I've had a lot of fun with it. I was finished with it on Friday night, Saturday night last, but I ran out of yarn in the last section of 6. And what happened was then I decided, okay, I still got leftover yarns of the other colors, and I'll just tack on the end. I'll tack on the end a little bit of blue. Fine, I can do that, a little dab. You know, that's just kind of the Stephen West way. Doesn't, you know, a little zhuzh there. But when I figured out at the end, when I was already going around the whole shawl, picking up the stitches to do the final border, on the way back, the way it's knit, you go back in this blue. And so I had one line of blue that went across the very end, which just really, I didn't like it, but I motored on, you know. I didn't take stock to think. And as I was doing that and picking up the border, I came around to a spot that I had flubbed up, and my intention was, oh, I'm just going to stop and rip that back and try and fix it. And my friends on Zoom on Saturday night that we have, they're kind of like, why don't you wait until tomorrow to address that other issue, aside from the blue that I didn't really like. And so I did. And when I got up the next morning, I knew that I did not like that blue speck. I knew that it had to go, and I was probably going to have to use one of my other yarns and redo section 6. So what I did is I ripped that border all the way off. I was just still picking up stitches, and then I addressed, what I did is I addressed that issue as well. Got that back, all back on the provisionary needles. And then I started ripping back out section 6. Somewhere along the way, as I'm unwinding that yarn yesterday morning, I had this idea. Why don't you weigh both of those skeins that you're unwinding, see how much there is and see if you don't have one of the other 4 colors that you have sufficient to do with that, but not taking away from what you needed for the border. I could use the border yarn, but I might have to, as I did the other borders, I might have to, do it multicolors. And I waited, and as luck would have it, I had enough in the mauve to do the final section in the mauve, and that's what I cast on yesterday. And I'm super happy with it, because one of my things, as I was telling the gals on the knitters on Zoom, and also Kendra, is that I loved all my color choices, but what I disliked, what I liked the least, I guess, was the blue. And I'm a blue fan. I'm all about the blue. That's why I put the blue in it, because it goes with blue jeans, right? But to me, it just didn't feel as cohesive as I wanted it to. But yet I was married to this, so I left it in. So what happened, and here's like all of the pieces together, right? What happened is I had enough of the mauve, and so I am totally loving this issue that came up. It, making, lemonade out of lemons. I like this so much better, and I think what happens is it pulls another light color, even though this color is in it with other ones. It kind of helps put this all together, gives us another lightness that I didn't have before, if that makes sense at all. And I'm just loving that, how I was like wondering what I was going to do to make this look cohesive, and it just worked out. So this is my Vertices Unite, and so I'm back on track, and I'm loving it. I just can't, for me, it's so potato chippy. I want to finish that piece. What I did discover as I was picking up around the perimeter of it, I need a longer cord. And so now that I had ripped that all off, when I get to that point of picking those stitches up back around, as you go back around, I'll have a longer cord, and it'll be nice and easier, not so scrunched up. So I am super excited with that. And so what I would say to you, there's still time to join us in our Vertices Unite. I have a thought that I might knit another one because it's so much fun to do, and I might do this one as a gift, my next one. That's my thought. That's where I'm going with that. And so that is the Vertices Unite, and that is the KAL that we are doing, and somewhat in conjunction with our Zoom on Saturday night. And again, that info is also in the pjknits Ravelry Group. We have a great group of knitters that come on from all over, and we talk about a lot of things, not religion, not politics for the most part. And we get a lot of ideas. We bounce things off. It's a wonderful group of friends that get together. They're my Saturday night dates. So, and then my next kind of sort of whip KAL that I want to talk about is a sock that I have on the needles. Now, the backstory on this is that I've ripped this sock back. The backstory is this is not probably. I cast on this sock way before 2014. As I've spoke before here on the podcast, my dear friend Norma, she was a dear friend, passed away in 2014, and before that she had moved away. But in the years prior to 2014, every Hanukkah and every birthday, she got a pair of socks because she loved them and she wore them. And so I would knit her a sock, and I cast on her a pair of socks that I never got to give to her because she had moved away and then passed fairly quickly. But anyway, so I pulled the sock out and decided, because our friend James from Dudeknits and is doing a knit along of his own. It is called Are You Down with Sockness? He and our friend Carol from Tuesday Nights are participating in this sock madness. And we love keeping tabs on how they're doing. It truly is sock madness, and I do believe it overcomes every other piece of knitting that they are doing. But anyway, James, who has a great podcast, please Join him and catch up with him on YouTube. It's Dudeknits. He's super cool and sweet, and he's one of our dear friends. But anyway, he's hosting that, and so I decided to kind of participate in Sock Madness, but not to the extent they're doing. And the point of his Are You Down with Sockness is that you can knit on socks. It doesn't have to be Sock Madness. So I decided to pull this out one and participate and knit along with James. And I pulled it out yesterday, tried it on, and discovered that what was happening with a lot of my socks is it was way too loose in the instep and on the top of the foot. As much as I tried, because I had quite a bit done right on it. I had the heel flap and gasset in and whatever. But this is done on 64 stitches, and so it was done on a size 2 needle in my notes. So what I did is I just ripped it back because this felt really good. And so then I put it onto size 1 needles now. And that I'm going to carry on and do this. But the yarn I purchased a long time ago, and it's tucked under here. It's Mylan. It's Lana Grossa yarn, Mylan white in steel color. It's wool and polyamide. Anyway, that's the yarn. And so I am going to finish these up and make them for me on a size 1. And I'll have another pair of woolly socks and a whip that's off. So again, this is part of his knit along that he's going to do. So I encourage you to join us and pull out your socks. And it can be any kind of sock. It doesn't have to be, anything major as well. So that's kind of what I'm doing there. And I wish James and Carol luck on their sock madness that they are participating in right now. I'm sure if you go back to Ravelry, you can see all the specs on it as far as that's concerned. I know it's not for me because I don't do well in obligation knitting. We know that, don't we? And we're just not going to talk about any of those things. So anyway, that's what I have in knitting. I have some mail calls that I want to share with you. First up, again, because of a Saturday night Zoom, our friend Rosie told us about a book that she had got, and it is Sarf by Kate Davies. And this book, this is so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm into these books that from afar, not really, but not necessarily found, at my local library. Although Margaret from Canada was telling us last week, she's been getting some really cool books through her library. And that just doesn't happen here in Illinois, to find a good knitting book that is a current book. But anyway, here's the book. It is Sarf. And oh my gosh, I have earmarked a couple of things that are like definitely on my radar. And again, I'm in this period, and you all know this from me because I've said it multiple times. I'm in this period of wanting to knit new designs out of the yarn that they were designed in. So I see some yarn in my future here, but this is one here for sure. Look at that sweater. And I know it's going to take some time. It has those traveling stitches. It's not, I know, one of those things that, is going to be immediate gratification. It's going to be probably a long-term project for me, and probably one of those things that I will work on during the summer. And then the next one is called Gruggle, and there's also a hat that matches it. And so I anticipate for next year as well. This would be a good project for out on the porch this summer that I could knit on. I don't mind knitting on woolly wools in the summertime, and in future episodes we'll be talking about more of that stuff. But here is this particular one. I am just loving this book. It's got some cool stuff. It's got some cool pictures in it. some cool designs, a little bit heavier weight for sure, probably not one that I will knit, but one that, you know, and I love these. I think these would be so much fun for kicking around. I have plans, and again, oh my gosh, this is out of her Uskit. Maybe I don't know. Oh my gosh. Oh, look at this. There's just some great designs in here, and I ordered it directly from Kate Davies. And the nice thing about it is that also when you order from Kate Davies direct, then I also got a code with the patterns in it, so that I have the patterns as well in electronic form, so that I can print them off and that for my book. But again, this is Sark by Kate Davies, and you know, in the past, when I would get a book, I would just buy a book. And then I'm like, oh, this was a $30 book that I am only going to knit one design, or I'm only going to look at. And so right now I'm becoming more cognizant of that, of the cost of the book. And is it worth my money to buy? Am I going to do more than one, or am I going to see this on Ravelry in a electronic version in a year? So I've been more cognizant of that. Let's put it that way. So what happened is my local yarn shop got some copies of Knitting for Olive, and I've been wanting to I can look at the patterns on Ravelry to see what's in the book, yeah. But I really wanted to look at it in depth. And I'll tell you, when I first went to the shop and I picked up the book, I just put it back down. I'm like, yeah, the book is $32, and I'm not, do I need another knitting book? Because you know I collect good knitting books. And then I sat there and I actually looked at it. And as you can see by my little bookmarks, I think it was worth the wait in buying. And this, again, I will try occasionally to knit something out of a yarn from PYS from here. But if I just can't get it out of my stash, my yarn shop, I'm not going to. And this one is on my radar for sure, for not soon, but at some point in time, out of the yarn it's in. This one, I think I could use with stash yarns. It says like 3 mohairs held together as they did it. That's one that I'm loving. This one, Truffle Sweater. And I'm okay with the seed, and I'm okay with these long-term projects. I'm becoming that kind of sort of knitter. Yeah, I like fast and quick and easy, but I also don't mind ones that take a little time, that you don't readily just take to everything, because I have my muscle burls and things for that, but something that you can just sit and listen to a book, or listen to some music, or just watch the birds outside as you knit, or just enjoy the quiet. And I don't mind that. Here's another one. Not one that I'm going to do right away, but I love that, and longer. That one's called Waffle Sweater. And here it is in long. So I'm loving this. I am loving this book. As you can see, for the $32, there was more than sufficient patterns. Here's that super easy one, probably out of PYS. And it's called It's Not a Sweatshirt, inspired by the quintessential, say it quick, sweatshirt. It's Not a Sweatshirt is a classic crew neck sweater with raglan sleeves. You know, they're all out there. But the raglan is, you know, there's a lot of raglans out there. This one I love. This one is just the aesthetic, the softness of it. The Carl Johan sweater. Johan sweater. I love those long sleeves and that neck. A little bit of a poof. Definitely on my radar for a sweater. Using her merino and her mohair. Here's a simple sweater, another variation of that, as it would be. Just some fun sweaters that I just can't believe. And then Fredericksburg beanie. I know that I could come up with some stuff out of my stash on that for sure. And this Avia sweater, another one. It has ribs and things like that. I'll get close to see that. So, and I love the colorway on that with black jeans and black boots. So not only it gives me some ideas for, you know, for styling. And this one, last but not least, maybe not necessarily for me right now, but maybe in the future. But this is called the puff tee. I even love it. So my whole goal here too is really what I'm saying with these books a lot is we had a discussion about this as well. And I know that others have had this discussion, but I want to go a little bit out of the box on my sweater knitting. I don't want to wear everything that everybody else is wearing. And I don't want to knit everything else that everybody's wearing. And I say that, and I say that knowing that there's a lot of us that are knitting for the meetup, but that's kind of like a fun thing, like ensemble. But I want to be also this year challenged by my knitting, by not always taking the super simple, easy route up of top down and stockinette. So I really want to kind of push that limit as well. So anyway, so that's kind of the reason for some of these when I'm looking in depth at my books and the sweaters that I want to knit going forward. So, and then just some little purchases that I got that I want to share with you because I'm on that quest for, is it the yarn? Is it the needle? Is it the size of mini stitches that I use for a sock? And so I ordered another skein of the Cozy Knitter. And I'm going to knit a pair of socks out of this and test it out with some Advent socks that I knit for her. I knit with her yarn 3 years ago. And I really like the way they fit and the way they last. And so I'm going to duplicate those socks in this and see if that is maybe the key to it. Maybe it's the yarn combined with the needle. But anyway, this is her 80/20, and this is called Love is in the Air. And I'm going to use this for at least the cuffs, I know, and maybe the toes, don't know. I'll see. Cuffs and the heel, definitely out of that. So I got that, came. And then I think the last purchase I got is I tried really hard for our knit along at the, for the retreat. I tried really hard to use some PYS yarns, and there just wasn't anything in there. I did swatch, in the last couple of episodes, I swatched some Malabrigo that I had. I liked it, but it just, I knew that I was not going to like it in the Clover tee and for the summer season. So this is the sweater that we are knitting for pictures at the Makers Meetup. And so I had in my cart I had some more Remix Light, but I already have 2 sweaters out of that, and I just couldn't make myself do that. So I decided to do Lena. Now the thing is about Sandnes Garn Lena, I have 2 sweaters out of it as well. Summer sweaters. And what I will tell you is my first one I knit during the pandemic. It was the Anchor Tee, and I like it. I also did another one, which was 2 years ago. I knit another one in denim, and I like it too. Interestingly enough, the first one I think has the yarn, seems to me like it's lost a bit of its luster. I don't know. I don't think that it ever had it. It didn't feel like the new variety of Lena that I've got, if that makes sense. The new one that I got here looks like it's looser, even looser twist, but has a more of a sheen to it. So I'll show you what I bought for mine. Here we go. And I'm really going to like that. So interestingly enough, all 3 sweaters of this, I think, and just based on my swatch that I've done out of it, it even feels different than the other 2. So I don't know, I can't, maybe it's the stitch count, maybe it's the makeup of the yarn, maybe it's the dye. that was held. But anyway, I'm really liking this. I did my swatch, and so I'm ready to cast on with it as well. And it just feels more like I was expecting, I guess. So anyway, here we go. You can see it has a little bit of a sheen to it, I think. So that is what I am going to be knitting my Clover tee out. We'd love to have you join us. Even if you're not coming to Makers Meetup, we'd love to have you join us in the knit along. And this is, again, is Clover Tee by Lynette. It is Lena Holmes Samso. I've never knit one of her sweaters. And so that's what the fun thing about that is. It's a new to me designer as well. And I am knitting the size, I'm actually knitting, it looks like the size 38. And I will make longer sleeves for sure. So I'm looking forward to casting that on. I just don't know when. Okay. And so that's all the knitting that I have for you, but I want to share the main purpose of this episode. I'm sorry it's running so long, but I wanted to share an experience that I had earlier a few weeks back. This is the Darn Knit Anyway sweater camp. And I had heard about this several years back from some friends up in the Minnesota area that attended it. And I always wanted to go, but it was the last weekend, January, first weekend in February, and it's Illinois and it's Minnesota. It's in the Twin City areas, Stillwater, Minnesota. And as we can tell by weather, it's not somewhere I'm going to go unless I absolutely have to in January, February, because you can get caught with a lot of coldness and weather up there. And so I just never, it was one of those things I wanted to go to, but I never could quite make. And I realized this last summer that they were doing a virtual sweater camp. And I'm going to be quite open with you with all of the things that I'm going to tell you about it. First of all, it was $275, but I will tell you it went Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Most times we started at 10 a.m. It was done via Zoom, okay? So they still had their in-person one, and we had our own Zoom virtual one. And so we got to see the same speakers that they got to see, only we had them on our Zoom cameras up close and personal, where I think they also saw theirs, but on a big screen. And so it started on Friday. It went Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Most of them started at 10 a.m. We were done by 5 p.m. I'm just going to tell you that I highly recommend that if you can do it again, if you can do it next year, because I was kind of like, I'm not quite sure. I saw who some of the speakers were going to be. I'm like, can they really, is it really something that I want to do? But I can tell you by the end of the weekend, I can tell you I would do this again. I totally enjoyed it. I loved the way it was set up with Zoom. We had a moderator in the thing so that when the speakers weren't on, we could knit together and talk together. Questions were asked. And so we kind of had that one-on-one. And I could see the people who were giving us our Zoom very close, just like we are. And I got some things out of it. Now, what I also want to say is the nice thing about doing those virtually is when you're listening to a speaker, for example, I went out and I muted me. Of course, we were muted when the speaker was talking, but I also took my camera off so I could see them, but they couldn't see me. And I did my dishes and I could still hear what they were saying, but I didn't have to be sitting present in front of this, which I totally love that. Or if there was a speaker that I'm listening to and I'm like, okay, I could kick back with my coffee and my knitting and put my feet up. My screen was gone, all of those things. And so I could, from the comfort of my home, I could enjoy that. So I definitely would do it again. And for the $275, we also got in the mail prior to a few days, a goodie bag. And what I'm using my bag now for it because it's so big. After we're done, is for my whips so that they're with me. But it has a zipper on it. It is huge. Very sturdy canvas, nice bottom. No pocket on the inside, but look at this. So it's going to be perfect for schlepping my whips, or even if I was so inclined to take all my whips, some of my whips to Florida. But we got the bag, and then a notebook so that we could take notes. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. And then we still got a lanyard, which I think this will be fun that I can use. I can use this one when I go to functions, to the meetup for sure. So that was in there. There was some postcards if we wanted to write postcards. Send those on their way. And then this from Katrinkles. We can fill in and put on the back of it. I thought that was fun. You can do there's the floss. You can see it, the floss is in there to do, along with the needle. Everything you need, right? So that was part of it. And then there is a sticker. So I'm going to put that on my journal, and then some stitch stoppers. And then, in true fashion, after my heart, there is this that also has a lid, which I think is super, super cool. This will be great for out in the summer, out on the porch. And anyway, so that was the basics of that kit. It came a few days before. And then in the notebook, the fun thing about this is the notebook gave us our schedule as to when we needed to be where. And times we had an ample lunch break from 12 to 2 o'clock, so you could do what you needed to do. The downside, I will tell you, is a couple of things. They had a camp store that was on site that you could buy things from. We also, on the virtual one, had the camp store, and we could buy some of those same things. And if we ordered it, then we had first take of it. You know, somebody had that at their table, and that was the last color, and they hadn't checked out with it, we could get that yarn. The thought with that was you couldn't see, you know, and feel, and there were some things that, you know, you just, you know, you missed out on that, of the aesthetic of that. The other thing is they had a cocktail of the day that was looked super cool to do, and I think they had cookies or whatever. So, you know, they had the other part of the retreat, granted, if you attended, was more than the $275, and then you had to get your hotel room and stuff like that. So it was more, and so there was some of those perks, but we were still able to be a part of that and take advantage of that. And then they would ship it out like on Monday, Tuesday with no shipping, as if we were just there. So I thought that was super cool. And then while all of these things were going on, the person from Knit, our moderator in the group, was creating a Google Doc that she was putting all the notes and information and one of the recipes for the cocktails in that we will all have access to at the end. So that was super cool. And I learned about Google Docs, about how I can save that thing that I did not know before attending this weekend. So I thought that was super fun. Some very good perks of that as well. So on Friday, we started out with, I will just give you the rundown here, with Gay Gillespie, which is Gigi, the iconic orange lady. And, you know, she just gave us some, you know, hints talked about her knitting journey and how she came to be the iconic orange lady, and just philosophy in life. It was kind of fun. Excuse me. It was kind of fun to listen to her. We also heard from Laura Nelkin of Nelkin Designs, and fun to listen to her, and learned about a couple of her patterns and some different things that we could do with our knitting. She is part of Nelkin Designs and does do some trips, I do believe, occasionally. So that was fun to listen to her and to see her in person and just get her perspective. We saw Alyssa Sotillo from Amano Yarns. These are baby alpaca. That's the only yarn that they do, and they are in the heart of Peru and do Peruvian Andes is where she's from, and talked about the alpacas and talked about her yarn and just in general. So that was kind of interesting. Some interesting thoughts about alpaca yarn is highly flame retardant, which resistance, I guess, and insulates. We all know that it has a tendency a bit to grow, but and she addressed that as well, that we knew that. But I just thought that was interesting that that the information that she gave us on and it absorbs humidity, which is good. And the thing I didn't know about alpacas in general is that they have a very soft hoof print, which I did not know. That's what she told us. And so it doesn't damage the grass like some animals do. And so the grass will, they nibble at the pasture so that it allows all of the pasture to come back, which I did not really know about alpacas. And alpaca is one of my favorite animals / yarn next to Finn the giraffe. We also had a Zoom with Susan Crawford of Susan Crawford Vintage. Oh, I love listening to her. I have a couple of her books, and she's, very vintage, very classic. She told us her story, how she came to doing the vintage designs, and just how she came about to do vintage. And she's British and has the most loveliest skin you'll ever see, just interesting, and to hear about also her own yarn from British breed sheep. And so that was fun. She is a 1930s, 1940s inspo. And so if you ever get the chance to hear her, listen to her story and how that came about. We heard in between at the end of the day, came to our Zoom was Susie from Fiber MacGyver, heard about her story, and then also heard from Tom, one of the employees of Darn Knit, anyway, of what he does, and saw some of his sweater that he did for Iceland, and that was fun. So that kind of ended day one. Yeah, day one. And then on day two, we heard from Jillian Moreno, who is does a lot. She's a Yarnitecture author, and she talked about a lot of different yarns and spinning and different varieties and fineness and crimpness. I found very interesting. I'm not a spinner. I'm not going to be a spinner, but I still found her story interesting and her tips and not the logistics. I can't come up with a good word, but the backgrounds behind certain yarns and the twists and things like that. So I thought that was super, super interesting. Another one of those that I could sit back and knit with. Sam from Lavender Loon came on, told us about her story, and I believe she was just maybe for us was just in the virtual room at that time, and talked about all of her yarns, talked about the spinning of her yarn and about her farm, and heard some of her, and we heard about micron count, which was interesting. So I learned about that. And then at the end of the day, we had, that's where I learned about Google Doc. And again, heard more from Tom and Carol, who has been to Shetland several times and had a exquisite Shetland sweater that she modeled for us and talked about it. She's a color work extraordinaire for sure. Also then, we heard from Tony Lipsy of TL Yarn Crafts, and that was on Sunday. And I didn't know this, but she's a crocheter and designs crochet patterns. And on Saturday night in Zoom, one of our Zoom people told us about that she was not knitting, she was Tunisian crocheting one of her designs. And so it was very interesting just to hear her story, even though that's not something that I'm ever going to do for sure. But we learned about, and also about crocheting sweaters is what she was talking about, and gave us some information like on 6 different designs, their features, what she likes and doesn't like about those. So she is a crocheter extraordinaire, and I learned about somebody that I did not know the full story or much about her. So even with, and I crochet, I just don't crochet with that. So she gave some really great tips. And then we heard from Catherine Ashley Wright from Utopia, somebody I had not heard about, but she talked about her yarns as well. She lives in Wisconsin. She is Utopia, does some spinning and milling, and talked about the whole process of scouring, plying, and shearing, and carding, and all things about that art. And so it was very interested, and she told about how things all happen. So I just thought that was super cool. She manages the Lafarge fiber mill and oversees a flock of 70 sheep with 4 children and her family. So it was very interesting. It was fun to hear about her story as well. And then finally, at the end of Sunday, we heard from Carson Demers, and I've heard Carson a couple of times. He attended knitting camp, and so that's the one thing I failed at, was my posture. And I still am failing. I failed at, but Carson it was fun to hear some things, and I got some he honed in on some things that I need to work on, like watching TV straight on, not at the side, and all the aesthetic of how I should be knitting better, so I don't have all the issues that I have. So, and he gave us a great tip, because it seems like it's not so uncommon to have arthritis here, as I do, as others do. And one of his proponent things is, he said hexagon needles or square needles are beneficial, to that pain. So not that Chiagu, I don't think, has one of those yet, but I might try it out in the future. I know that when we had this snow coming in, I knew it was coming because of mine. But anyway, Carson finished out the day, and then we had some social stitching at the end where we finished up, and then we got a virtual tour of the Darn Knit Anyway shop in Stillwater, Minnesota. And if you are ever that way, and if I'm ever that way again, I am definitely going to go there and shop, because it was a new to me shop in person. I had been buying from them online, but I didn't realize that I'd never been in the shop. I thought maybe I had, but I had not. So this is definitely a place that I would go back to. I will tell you in the end, we also had a Maker's Minute where people could get on their Zoom and Spotlight and get up and show us their knits that they were fond of or favorite of. And we had, I added a few to my list, for sure, that I want to check out. So that was at the end, and it was just a wonderful experience, and I am definitely going to try and do it again next year, because it was great. It was great. I can't tell you how much fun, and how I really think that I got my money's worth for it. And to be able to do it in the comfort of my home, I could do it in my jammies if I wanted to. A lot of people, we never saw their face, but totally would do it virtually again. I think virtual for me is even better, but I do love getting together in person, like say at the Makers Meetup. So that is all I have for you today. I will be back again before the end of February. I already have plans for what it's going to be. I'm going to talk to you and show you about my winter sweater clean out. And just to give you a little heads up, I pulled out all of my sweaters for winter. My cardigans are in a pile, and my pullovers are another pile. I have the luxury of having an upstairs bedroom with a futon and bed that I only have to clean off when somebody's coming to stay. And so I have piles. And I am wearing each and every one of my winter sweaters this winter before it's over with. And I'm looking at them crucially. And they are going to be donated if I don't like them. And I already have a stack, about 5 or 6. And I'm okay with letting them go. So I'm going to share all that with you in the next episode. I want to say again, thank you so much. We are we're over 900 subscribers. When we hit 1,000, when we ever hit 1,000, there will be a big blowout of a giveaway for sure. But we'll have fun stuff then. But until then, I am okay with this community. I never would have thought back when I started the podcast those years ago that I would create so many wonderful friendships, and I hope that you are doing that as well, because it's a great craft, and in these days and times, we need our knitting, and we need to just, as Calgon, Calgon, take us away. Okay, knitting, take me away. That's what I want to do, and so I'm grateful and thankful for all of you. Please, if you would, subscribe. Please, like. And comment below if you have something that you want to know about, you want me to talk about in the future. I have a couple of the next 2 episodes I have planned out of what the theme's going to be. So, and in the meantime, I hope that you're knitting on something fun, something that you want to be knitting on for sure. I hope the weather is good for you. According to my favorite weather person, Ryan Hall, maybe towards March, we're going to get a little warmer. But, we had 60 degrees a couple of weeks ago. So, it is winter. We do know that. So anyway, I will quit there. Take care. Enjoy your knitting. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Until next time, bye.